Hello, everybody. Here's Dr. Bachnight coming at you. And this presentation will be the final one for the non-renewable energy section. Okay, I hope everybody's staying safe out there and you're keeping up with these videos and having some fun. And if you have any questions or concerns, please don't forget to email me or give me a call, what have you. Okay, I'm out here to help you. Also, don't forget, I think our paper's coming up pretty soon, the due date. So don't forget, we have to have that up there. We're not going to be doing a presentation for that, just the paper. Okay, so check that due date out on Blackboard, and then also your homeworks too. Keep up with your homeworks as well. All right. So let's get into this last section of the non-renewable energy. And as we talked about before, we use fossil fuels a lot, all right, and the external costs are really starting to add up for our fossil fuel expenses, all right. The environmental damage, the medical expenses, and the long-term damage to climate, all right. We need to start changing our ways to do that. And the first thing we really need to work on, well, we got to work on all these things, but kind of, take the elephant in different chunks. Okay, we talked about wedge strategies. One of the wedges we need to talk about is how we're going to do some energy efficiency and conservation. All right, first we got to be more efficient with our energy, and we need to stop using as much. All right, we need to conserve it and not waste as much. All right, and energy efficiency describes the ability to obtain any given amount of output while using less energy. All right, it is, we want to be as efficient as possible, and our cars only capture about 25% of that energy in that gasoline. All the rest is lost in excess heat and not even used. All right, and then there's also energy conservation. All right, which is different than energy efficiency. Efficiency is trying to be the best you can be. Conservation is, hey, maybe we don't need to use as much. It describes the practice of reducing the wasteful or unnecessary use of energy. All right, so we not only have to get better at how we use that energy, we got to come up with ways of saying, hey, maybe we don't need to use as much energy. Okay, I always like to use the example of the internet. I mean, when I first started, I was alive when the internet first started coming out and how slow it was. And it did take forever for a video to download. And it seems like it's taken forever for my Blackboard videos to download too. But I'm on some ancient technology. DSL doesn't even really exist. But I can't get anybody else give me a high Y connection. But it only takes a second. I blink and my Google searches are up. It's amazing. Now, do I need another millisecond of that? Can I wait a millisecond more? It's crazy. So sometimes we got to figure out how we can use less. And I like the upcoming video in Crazy Town talks about that, how we just kind of waste energy. They talk about a ski resort in the middle of Saudi Arabia or somewhere. You got a ski resort in the desert. What the heck? Um, but you see here in the United States, we by far, many times I say this, we're 5% of the population. You use 25% of the world's resources. United States per capita energy use is way up there. And Canada and Saudi Arabia are with us too, right? When there's some people that do this, all right? But you can see it much lower for the rest of the world, okay? China, and they got 1 billion more people than us, right? So you can see that we need to definitely, if we're going to capture some or make some differences in the way we handle energy efficiency and conservation, are definitely going to have to come. And our energy intensity is usually equated as energy used per dollar of gross domestic product. Okay, so we use how much we consume, and that directly correlates to the energy use or energy intensity. And lower energy efficiency indicates a greater efficiency in electrical use. All right, so if we have a lower energy efficiency, that means that we are getting better. And the United States is getting better, and the rest of the world is getting better at being more efficient. This is one of the things we have been trying to do. No business likes to waste money. We like to become more and more efficient. But remember, this is just the electricity use. Our cars have been stagnant for a long, long time. All right, that combustion engine. Something you can do personally. Um, Personal actions for reducing efficiency is basically in your homes. All right, you can see this map of these homes. You can do an energy efficient audit for your home. Someone will come out to your house and infrared it and see where you're losing heat and things like that. Give you ideas how you can put in better washers and dryers and windows and insulation and all that other stuff. All right. When it comes to big businesses, they also talk about what's called cogeneration, and it's a process in which the excess heat produced from their machinery or something going on goes back and generates electricity or is heat used to heat nearby places. My favorite example of this is the technology industry. Places like Google and Apple and stuff, they got these big cloud servers. I mean, there's servers all over the place. And to keep them cool, because they want to keep, they have to be a certain temperature. The hotter they get, if they get too hot, they break down. They uh, run water around them. All right. And as that water runs them down, that heat from the server dissipates into the water. And then when that water gets too hot and they have to put in new cold water, just in a circling loop, it goes out and goes through the floorboards of the factory or the office space or whatever and heats up the office. So they're doing cogeneration. They're, capturing that wasted heat, putting it into the water and moving it to the rest of the building. Okay, so there's a lot of personal things you can do if you're a business and also as an individual. Right? Individuals and even businesses have the EPA labels, energy guides. All right, this is something. The energy guide has been around for a long, long time, since the 1970s. It's the first oil shock. Now we also have what's called a star rating, so you get like 4 stars the best or something like that. So you can't find a washer, dryer, water heater, dishwasher, or any general appliance, whether you're a business or a individual, that doesn't have this energy guide to it and shows you how much you're going to spend. All right, and the better, and you get to make up your own decision which one you want to buy, because more energy you save over time, the more expensive it's going to be. But you got to do what's called the break-even analysis, right? You got to figure out, hey, if I buy this cheap one, I'll spend this much electricity in so many years. If I buy this good one, I'll spend this much electricity. Which one's the better savings? Now, following the OPEC embargo in 1970s, that's when the first oil shock happened. We had a big, dramatic increase in price, and it was just crazy going on there. It's a little bit different war going on today. That was an embargo. This one is kind of like what's happening in the oil market today. Is it just flooded with supply? That this was because there was no oil. All right, but what Jimmy Carter did is you learned he reduced the speed limit to 55, and that didn't go too well, huh? But he also instituted what's called CAFE standards. All right, corporate average fuel efficiency. So they said that Ford, Chevy, everybody that makes a car here in the United States, they got to increase their mileage range from way back when it was like 15, and now they got to get it to 18 in so many years, and then 21 in so many years. Okay, it was staggered. It wasn't right away, and it was working. All right, and then Jimmy Carter got booted out of office. Reagan decided to get rid of those CAFE standards. Obama put them on again, and it started to work. All right, and then Trump just recently got out. But you can see the heavy uh, flatlining right here that happened after Reagan got rid of the CAFE standards. All right, and then it goes up. Okay, Obama put them back in. And if we extend this map, I mean, we're only 3 years into it, but I bet you it's going to flatline over here. But fuel efficiency just makes sense. All right, my car, my Prius, my first Prius was a regular hybrid, and it got about 40 to during the summertime, about 40 miles to the gallon. During the winter time, because I got to run my heater, it will get about 32 to 35. Now I got 25-mile range in electricity. I'm getting 90. I'm averaging 89 miles an hour, and I've gone 30,000 miles already. Sometimes I just kick it. It depends. Now I don't even know. I go all the way to the grocery store and back without spending any money in gas. I love it, right? And it's just smart. I mean, it still goes. And believe you me, I look good in that car, right? So who's to knows what's going to happen and how we're going to get our locomotion, right? Oil is definitely one of my scariest numbers out there when it comes to depletion of a natural resource. So we're going to have to start making some tough decisions about that, and it's going to happen in our lifetime, folks. It's happening today, all right? There's also what's called the rebound effect that we need to talk about here in economics. Is once the price of gas goes down and there's a rebound effect, everybody starts driving more. They say, all right, or buying those big hulking SUVs because they can afford the gas mileage on that. And then what happens when the gas goes up? They're in trouble, right? So sometimes the gains of efficiency may be offset if people engage in a more energy consuming behavior. This doesn't happen all the time, right? We've always been kind of know that the rebound effect is out there as economists or as environmentalists, but it doesn't show up every single time. Sometimes we say, okay, hey, this is actually good, and I don't need to go out and consume because how many pairs of Levi's can a billionaire actually buy, or even yachts, right? So just because people have a ton of money, sometimes even there is the law of diminishing returns. All right, so it depends on how much rebound we have. Now, having said that, I always get scared. If we got rid of all the college debt, boy, that rebound effect would be huge. All right, it would be absolutely immense. Every millennial will go out there and put a down payment on a house, all right, because they're saving five. That's like a house payment almost. Okay, so I think that would be a huge rebound effect. Okay, and there's rebound effects we kind of want. That's why people say let's raise the minimum wage so people will start consuming more. They'll actually have some more money and be able to buy products, and they're definitely going to spend. Those people making minimum wage are going to spend every single one of those dollars into the economy. They're not going to be saving it because they're hardly getting by now if they can get by. They aren't. All right, so that would be a rebound effect that we want to try to do. All right. So nuclear power. This is the final section here, and nuclear power is kind of strange. I don't know if it's renewable or non-renewable because it's made out of uranium. So uranium is an element, and we can't create or destroy it. It just doesn't entropy. All right, it becomes less useful as we use it. All right, so it's definitely a element of matter, just like hydrogen and stuff. So I don't know where it really sits. And we need to think about it rationally as a society and track the whole total throughput of nuclear power. And as an ecological economist, I look at the environmental side, not only the energy rate of output or energy rate of return or return there. Okay, so you can see here the United States definitely leads the world in nuclear power capacity with over 100 gigawatts of electricity and 100 number of reactors. And those number of reactors kind of stayed stable in the past couple of years. We haven't put on a new one in like 30 years or something like that. We may eventually hear there's a couple proposed in Georgia. It's about to be built and then got pulled. Now it's about to be built again. So who knows? All right. And we get about 20% of our electricity from renewable energies, right? But you can see other countries are from nuclear power. Other countries such as France, 72, because France does not have any other real natural resources. They don't have all the coal that we had, right? And they wanted to be energy independent, and they said, hey, nuclear power will give us the energy independence we need, okay, for electricity. And we'll talk about some of those things that why that is a good idea and a bad idea in some ways. All right, all Japan, all right, only about 2% of its electricity comes from nuclear power, and they have that huge problem with Fukushima. 2% of that power comes from nuclear reactors, and that is causing a global disaster. All right, polluting the Pacific Ocean on a daily basis with radioactive waste. Okay, Ukraine, right? 52% of their electrical power comes from nuclear power, right? And why do I bring up Ukraine? It's not as politically stable as most countries around the world. It's still a fledgling society, but when they got rid of, broke from the Soviet Union and started their own little country, right? Um, they were left with all these nuclear reactors that the Soviet Union once had installed. Okay, and I can't remember. I can't remember if where the nuclear plant is. It's not in Ukraine. It's one of the satellite countries that fell to the I can't. That one nuclear plant in Russia that failed. I can't remember the name of it. Chernobyl. All right, is in a country kind of like Ukraine, but even worse. I can't remember the name of it. All right, so we've got to be careful. But nuclear energy is different than nuclear fu- um, fusion. Fusion, right? It's called nuclear fission, right? And this releases nuclear energy and heats up. So what we're trying to do is instead of the sun smashing, which is a fusion, smashing those two molecules, that helium and hydrogen molecules together, we actually try to break those molecules apart. All right. So nuclear energy is the energy that holds together the protons and the neutrons. And when we break that energy that holding those neutrons and protons together, we get the nuclear reaction. All right. And that is a thermal energy, a heat energy. All right. And that heat energy boils water to make some steam to turn a turbine that takes these magnets around these magnets around some copper wires to give us electricity. So just another way of boiling water, but it lasts a long time. It can be able to, once you start the reaction, it drives more and more of the reaction. All right, but we need to be able to control that reaction. If we don't control it, it can get out of hand, and hence comes the nuclear meltdown kind of scenario. All right. So inside a nuclear reactor, a substance called a moderator, right, will slow down these neutrons being emitted by the fission enough that they will impact the other atoms. So we have to be very careful. And if it wasn't for these moderators, we'll get out of control. All right, and we also have the control rods and all that other stuff. Okay. So like I said, all it is just you have the fission going on in the nuclear reactor, which is heating up some water, which turns into steam, which turns a turbine, which takes these magnets to go around some copper wires, and out to the electrical grid it goes. And once again, when we see these big cooling towers, this is just the water cooling down and then going back into its loop. It is not any pollution. So the radioisotopes in this uranium 235 can be emitted, and these particles are not too good for us. Right? It doesn't really do our bodies too good, and we can track this uranium from exactly which planet it comes from. Right? It is just like lead. We know exactly what mine it comes from and who's in there, and it seems to work okay. All right, if we can actually work together and we can actually take this nuclear power and do what's also called cogeneration. All right, so we have a little bit of coal power, all right, and a little bit of coal power or some other fossil fuel. And this is what we actually have here in Moon Township at Robert Morris. The shipping port plant down there in Aliquippa is actually a cogeneration nuclear power plant. So it's half coal and half fossil fuels. And we've been doing this since the 1990s, putting those plants in there, right? Or right next to a nuclear power plant because we needed to boost up, and that's what we did here in Shippingport. We needed to boost up the power that we needed, and instead of building the nuclear power plant, we built the coal power plant. So many governments see nuclear power as an improvement over coal generation, okay, because coal has extensive um, abuse on the surface, all right, and when we're mining, it's less. When we're mining uranium, it's less extensive. Um, we would need to debate that in a rational way to see. I think both of them. We're still doing some mining that does do some damage, ecological damage. So, as a ecological economist, I try to look at both of those in a more of a rational way, and then also put in the renewables too. You got to make sure we look at how much damage do we do mining for wind turbines and solar panels as well. Okay. Um, Greenhouse emissions. Okay, coal definitely has the considerable emissions, and that's one of the reasons why we want to get off coal, because that is the main contributor to global warming and CO2 emissions. Whereas the nuclear power plant, when we're actually creating that electricity, there is no emissions whatsoever. Okay, it's really relatively safe. It's very, very clean when we are delivering that electricity. All right, but we got to remember how we extract that uranium. Is that clean? And do the total throughput on that area. And then also what happens when we get rid of it, which we'll talk about. It doesn't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. Every time we use energy, we need a little bit more uranium to put in there eventually. Whether that takes 50 years or a day in the case of coal, we need to always keep that equation in there. And then radioactive emissions. So coal has no radioactive emissions. As far as there's probably is some uranium, some in there, all right, but it's minute. Um, just because the coal has been in there, and it's called radon and all this other stuff. Okay, but it's minute. It's not going to be generally considered safe, definitely. But nuclear power, if we don't control that, that is not generally considered safe. And it can get out of there. So there's some people in Japan that sacrificed their lives knowingly going in there to try to stop some of that stuff at Fukushima, and also in Chernobyl. And there were some people here in the United States at 3 Mile Island that were ready to do it as well. Okay, so we got to be very, very safe with this. Coal, occupational health to the workers, a lot more problems, a lot more dangerous. All right. Nuclear power, if done properly, we can definitely control it, and there's few or no known health problems at all. It's basically going to be accidents at the workplace. Okay. Um, Nearby residents, the coal definitely has a big air pollution problems. We have done great in society of trying to minimize those, but they still do happen. And as I said, nuclear power, as long as you keep that nuclear radioactive rods contained, there is actually no um, external, except for after that waste needs to be removed, problems during that process. Okay. Sabotage is something we also need to think about in today's world, unfortunately. You're not really going to go and blow up a coal power plant or a coal mine unless, I don't know, you're better off going to a nuclear plant and doing something there. Okay? And that's one of the things why I brought up Ukraine. That is a less stable country, and if someone mad gets in there, it's a little bit easier. But it's still kind of easy here in the United States as well, believe it or not. Solid waste, coal definitely has more of a waste stream because we're burning that coal in one day, and then all of a sudden we have this sludge left over in ash. So we got to get rid of it. All right. On the other side, we have the nuclear waste where we start that chain reaction going up in the uranium. That can last for 50 years, but we still have this nuclear waste that we don't know what to do with. All right, we still haven't figured that out yet. And fuel supplies both should actually last for a long, long time. Yeah, we don't know exactly how much uranium we have out there, but we still plenty of uranium out there for us to use. So the three largest nuclear accidents, all right, have spawned public anxiety over nuclear power and limited its proliferation. So we're really afraid as a society is what would happen in a local community if an accident would happen. We almost had one here in the United States called the 3 Mile Island experience. really woke up our eyes, and a lot of activists got together and said, hey, we need to do something about that. And we haven't really built any new nuclear plants since this incident. Okay, we did have some on the table at the time, but this really changed the view of American society, and it started to wane a little bit because we were going to start a couple in Georgia, right? Um, but we've also had one in Chernobyl. Okay, is the Chernobyl out there in where is it? Oh, I guess it is in the Ukraine. I didn't know it was in the Ukraine. Um, Go believe it, because Ukraine is like an economic hub. They got plenty of waterways and stuff. That is an important country. The Soviet Union did not like Russia did not like giving up the Ukraine, believe it or not. But I guess that is where Chernobyl is, and I spoke before. But that was a big accident. That's still trying to equate the ecological damage. People still can't go there to farm or do any science because it's just too radioactive. Right? 31 people were killed directly, and thousands more will develop cancer because radioactive waste. It's not You don't get sick like right away. It takes a while. You get a couple of mutated cells inside of you due to it, and then it takes a while to build up on that cancer. All right. So right now, nowadays, there are some more and more deaths are showing up because these people are just too close to the nuclear fallout. And cancer is a hidden thing that takes a couple of years to really manifest. Okay. And the atmospheric currents carried that radioactive waste, all right, throughout all different parts of Russia and Europe. So it wasn't just that one little small locality that was damaged. There is what's called the nuclear fallout, and also with the Fukushima that just recently happened in Japan. About I guess I can't say recently, about 5 years ago maybe. Um, that nuclear waste, they are trying to contain this water, and are keeping those fuel rods from going crazy. And they're out of storage units, and they're just basically spilling it right into the Pacific Ocean right here. Okay, so that was 2011. So wow, that was 8 years ago. Holy cow! When we had the Fukushima accident, they had three levels of backup though, folks. All right, because they did have the nuclear power that kept the electricity going, and they had these diesel generators. All right, once that power was taken away, and then they had their battery backup. Right, and thank goodness they had three powers or sources to be able to get that the backup generators. Right, but because they got to keep these control rods nice and cold if they get out of control. And now they have all this water all backed up, and then just dumping it right into the Pacific Ocean. There's nothing we can do. And they also say that thousands of residents in the area near the plant were evacuated and is screened for a radiation test. So there's going to be another wave, another generation that was close here, that lived close to this area, that are going to start developing sooner or later the cancer from this nuclear fallout from this accident. And you can see most of the radiation spread from Fukushima. Okay, and here's the plume from the initial. All right, but this plume is still going out into the Pacific Ocean. And we can actually test some of the stuff that actually washed. So, we can actually test the water levels and pick up that uranium, that unique signature from Fukushima's plant. Okay, and we don't know what the exact long-term effects are going to be. All right, Japan's government temporarily shut down all 50 of its nation's nuclear reactors in response to this accident. They're slowly bringing them back up online because they have to have some form of electricity. But the public pressure to get them all out is still there. But they need to think rationally, right? We just can't just turn off electricity from everybody until they actually have a backup system. So they are trying to come up with a plan that slowly phase them out, like the other countries are doing. because one of the biggest problems in the other countries, besides just the accidents that can happen, is the waste itself. All right. The half lives of leftover radioisotopes are about or upwards to 100 millions a year. So we don't know what to do with this stuff. We can't, for 1,000 years, it's going to be, you can't really touch it. If you touch it, you are doomed. All right. Not quickly, but slowly. But you will be forever changed. Uh, so nuclear waste from the power generating is being stored in pools. All right. So we just store on site in these little pools and just keep an eye on them. Okay. And we use steel and lead and concrete. So lead's important. Okay, we're not going to get rid of it. We need that lead to keep that stuff away. And we got spent fuel rods all over the United States. Okay, here are all these little spots in here are where we have all of our spent fuel rods, and it's scattered everywhere. And we're going to talk about Yucca Mountain here, and that's in Nevada. And you see, they have none. And what we've been proposing in this United States for 20 years is we actually started building this little tunnel down there in Yucca Mountain in Nevada. We were going to take all this waste and ship it to Nevada, put it in a mountain, and say, don't come back. And just stay there and just put up these bad signs. So in 1,000 years, people know not to dig in this little tunnel. We spent billions of dollars and stopped it. Obama just said, hey, forget it because no one wants that in their backyard. Okay, but it was chosen because of the geological effects of no earthquakes or rainfalls and stuff like that. It was supposed to last for 1,000 years. But we said no. Trump's saying maybe we can bring it back, but as for now, we have all this waste stationed here and we have no idea what to do with it. So since the late 1980s, nuclear power has slowed with an increase of about only 2.5% worldwide. All right, so we put a big kibosh on that after a while because we ran into the waste problem, but also 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl really made the world think about it, and Fukushima made us think about it a little bit even more. And it's extremely expensive to build a nuclear power plant. Talk about socialism. We, the people, help build these things like no tomorrow. Talk about subsidies. Even with the insurance, because there's Lloyd's of London, the biggest insurance company out there, and they won't insure a nuclear plant from accidents. So we, the people. So if we have a Fukushima style problem, the industry put in some money for insurance, but after that, we, the people, pay are the ones that are going to bail it out and clean it up after 1,000 years. So planes have always aged quicker than expected. Our timelines of them haven't been too good, but we have to do something about them. We can either fix them up and keep them going, or we could decommission them, but that's also very expensive because it's always about the waste. We have no idea what to do with this waste. Some engineers are trying to figure out how we can repurpose it and use it again because it's still hot, right? And still, it's never really disappears. It's matter. It just we can't use it. Despite these issues, nuclear power is still one of the few currently viable alternatives to fossil fuels. We need to level out our carbon emissions, and some people still talk about nuclear power as possibly doing that. You are going to have to make up your own personal decision on whether or not you want it or not. It's really something that you're going to have to decide and do your own break-even analysis of pros and cons. Okay, so that is the final non-renewable presentation. Anybody has any problems, once again, give me a call. If not, we'll see you next presentation. We're going to talk about renewable energy next. That's my favorite. That is actually solutions in progress. Okay? We'll see you soon, guys.